In this episode, I'm going to talk about the Crenshaw Mafias and some of the things they have done in the streets. Crenshaw Mafias are a blood gang on the west side of Inglewood that were established in the 1970s. The Crenshaw Mafias are allies of the Denver Lane Bloods, the Inglewood families, and several other blood hoods. The Crenshaw Mafias beef with several Crip hoods like the Raymonds, the Legend Crips, the Imperial Village Crips, the Watergate Crips, and several more. The Crenshaw Mafias are well known for having rappers that were a part of the 1990 classic album, Bangin' on Wax, and also having several mentions in movies like Boys in the Hood, Straight Outta Compton, and several others. Now I'm going to go into some cases where some Crenshaw Mafia members put in work. September 27, 2001. Christopher was driving his car to meet a woman near 104th Street and Crenshaw Boulevard in Inglewood. He accidentally turned on the wrong street, and as he made his way on the street, he will be shot several times. He will lose his life. Ty will ask her boyfriend Cregan, who was from that area in the Crenshaw's Mafia's turf, what happened. Cregan told Ty he shot Christopher because he thought he was going to do a drive-by on the Mafias. Cregan even took her to the scene and showed her the glass from Christopher's car on the ground. On the morning of September 29, 2001, Christopher's three brothers, Brian, Tori, and Michael, and their mother went back to the street where Christopher lost his life. They would drive by and see a group of Crenshaw Mafia members. Michael would point his fingers out the window, like he was shooting at the Mafias, and drive off. Later that night, Christopher's family had several people over to mourn. While the gathering was going on, Michael received a call from a woman saying she had info on what happened to Christopher and wanted to meet. Christopher's three brothers and a friend named Floyd would leave to meet on 104th Street. While at an intersection, it would be a car behind them yelling. Cregan would soon pull alongside of the car and began to shoot. Michael was shot in the head and Tori in the neck. They both would lose their lives. Brian and Floyd would give a description of Cregan and say the shooter was from Crenshaw Mafia. Police would later identify Cregan off an assault he did the prior night, which was captured on tape at a 7-Eleven. He would ask someone where they were from and then knock the person out. Brian and Floyd were shown the video and picked him out as the shooter. Cregan would later take his girlfriend Ty to the scene of the second shooting, and he admitted to it and told her what he did. Police watched Cregan's house for days. They stopped his brother Darren and searched the car. He was in a car that was said to be the car used in the second shooting. Police would find evidence that it was, and Cregan was picked up. Ty was set to testify against Cregan. Police put her in a hotel for hiding. She was later found by Darren and a group of Crenshaw Mafias. They would threaten her, and Darren hit her in the head with a 9. Cregan would call from jail, and Darren would ask, "What you want me to do with her?" They decided to whoop on her some more. At the hospital, Ty would tell police even more evidence that she knew. At trial, Cregan would deny everything and give alibis to every shooting, which were all proven false. Cregan was sentenced to life. December 10th, 2004. Gloria and her boyfriend Stacy went to a Christmas parade in the city of Linwood. Stacy was from Crenshaw Mafia. At the parade, Stacy would be jumped by several men. Stacy would call his friend Demarius, also from Crenshaw Mafia, and his girlfriend Nadia to take him to Gloria's house before he could spend the night there. Gloria lived in the Linwood neighborhood Crips turf. The next morning, Stacy called Demarius to pick him up from Gloria's house. Demarius pulled up with Kevin and Victor. It was a few Linwood Crips outside the apartments. Demarius, Kevin, and Victor had to walk past him to get to Gloria's apartment. One of the Crips named AJ would say, "What's up, cuz?" to Demarius. Demarius replied by saying, "What's up, blood?" AJ pushed up on Demarius and once again said, "What's up, cuz?" Demarius next said to AJ, "You don't want no problem with me, blood," and started reaching towards his waist. By this time, Gloria and Stacy were outside. Gloria next said Demarius started firing at AJ. AJ will lose his life. Gloria ran and seen Kevin shooting at another Crip named Marcus. Demarius, Kevin, Victor, and Stacy ran to Demarius' girlfriend's SUV, and Nadia would drive off, and they would turn back around to pick up Gloria. Next day, Gloria called the police and told them everything she knew. She would give everyone's names and go to the police station and identify their pictures in a lineup. One of the Linwood Crips, Marcus, testified and gave descriptions of the shooters. Kevin was picked up and placed in a cell with a monitor that recorded all of his convos. Kevin talked about harming snitches in the cell. The police put Victor in his cell, and they discussed more people snitching and their alibis for the shooting. Demarius would tell police Kevin was the only shooter, which Kevin would later find out and write all over his cell Demarius being a snitch. This was used against him in trial. Nadia took the stand and told everything that happened, calling Kevin and Demarius the shooters. This case had 2 trials, with the first one being a deadlock jury. The second trial ended with Kevin and Victor being acquitted, but Demarius received 40 years to life. Kwesi and his brother Quan walked their little cousin to a bus stop. As she got on the bus, they walked back to a nearby apartments called the Kirkland Apartments. They would be approached by a man named David. He would ask them where they were from. They would tell David, "Rolling 60 Crip." David left and came back with 5 men. He would tell the brothers they had to run fades. Quan would fight with David, getting the best of him. Kwesi next said all he heard was shots. Kwesi ran up on David till he noticed David was the shooter. David would fire at Kwesi, but the banger would jam. David and his group would then run away. Quan would lose his life from the shooting. Kwesi would identify David as the shooter, but later recanted his statements, but then later again told the truth after being convinced by his mom. Kwesi would admit the shooting had to do with affiliations, with his gang being the Rolling 60s, and David and his group being from the Crenshaw Mafia gang. It would be many witnesses who would see the fight and shots fired. They would all say David was the shooter, and David would be sentenced to 25 years to life. In February of 2006, Legend Crips would take the life of a Crenshaw Mafia. So shortly after, DeRay would take a Jeep and picked up Eric and Tony. They would drive all through the Legends turf, but didn't see anybody. The group ended up driving on Hobart and 104th Street, where a man named Jeffrey Holmes sat. Jeffrey had started cutting hair out of his garage, so it was a crowd of people outside. DeRay drove by, and Eric and Tony stuck their arms out the window and began to shoot. 6 people will be shot, and 1 will lose their life. Almost everyone who was at Jeffrey's house would give a statement and a description of the car and the shooters. Police found the Jeep and found fingerprints that matched everyone in the car. DeRay would give up Tony and Eric and pick them out as the other people that were in the car. DeRay would tell everything first, saying the OGs told them they needed to avenge their homie, so he took a car and picked up everyone. DeRay mentioned how they rode around looking for Legends, then the shooting, and where they ditched the car. DeRay, Eric, and Tony were all charged in the shooting. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.